Welcome back to the Changing Earth podcast with author Sarah F. Hathaway and co-host Chen Gibson, blending survival fiction and fact to bring you entertaining education that will help you dream, survive, and thrive. And now, here's your host, Sarah F. Hathaway and Chen Gibson.
Chapter 21. The late night drive through the dark was awkward and quiet. By afternoon the next day, the skies had darkened and a heavy rain was falling. The men escorted Christoph into the medical center in Minneapolis and were awkwardly quiet as they traversed the mud back to the vehicle. "That place is a dump," Cole explained, distraught by the conditions in the medical center. "I'm surprised they have running water," Monroe commented. Chappie paused for a moment, lost in thought. Finally, he looked up at Cole, asking, "Would that happen to me if I was injured, Virgis?" "No, because I would take care of you myself," Cole assured him. "That's right. You're an illustrious landowner. What are you doing fighting with the refugees, Major?" Monroe asked him sarcastically, but his statement also had a serious note. "Nothing has changed, Monroe. The general himself would be classed as a refugee," Cole told him. "Would he? Or would his rank spare him?" Chappie suggested. "This is all bull. Don't worry. General McClintock will set it straight," Cole assured them, hoping it was true. "Sir, I found us a transport to the base," Cook told him as she approached. "Sergeant, is that a new uniform? It looks nice," Chappie said flirtatiously. Monroe busted out laughing. "Real slick, Chappie," he added, catching his breath. "I wouldn't touch you with a 10-foot pole, Sergeant. I don't go for rednecks," she replied bluntly. "Oh, burn! Tell it like it is, sister," Monroe exclaimed. Smiling widely at their antics, Cole valued the simple moment. He told them affectionately, "Quit your jaw-jacking and get your butts on the bus." It was evening by the time the men entered the Millie Lax training base. The rain never seemed to end, and the men stepped out into large puddles in the parking lot. The base was dark and quiet. Shaking off the rain, the men entered their pod home. Chappie immediately went to flop down on his bed. "Feels good to be back, don't it?" he wondered. "At least it's quiet," Monroe agreed, throwing his pack down. Cole stowed his stuff, but couldn't live with the amount of indecision swirling around in his head. "You guys stay here. I'm going to talk to General McClintock," he told them, headed for the door. "Tonight?" Monroe wondered. "No better time but the present," he said with a smile. Monroe shook his head at Cole, warning, "Tread softly, my brother." Cole nodded at him, walking into the pouring rain. Staring at the rain viciously rippling the lake, he valued the serenity of the moment. Taking a deep breath, he approached the door of General McClintock's home and knocked. The door opened, and Johnny wore a bright smile. "Virgis, when did you get home?" he wondered, running out and giving him a big hug. Cherishing the loving feeling of the embrace, Cole squeezed him tightly. He replied, "I just got in, buddy. Is your dad around?" Johnny ran back through the door, yelling, "Dad! Virgis is here!" Approaching from the back of the home, General McClintock declared, "What the hell are you doing back here, Virgis?" "Barnes didn't call you?" Cole asked, curious how much he had heard about the incident. "No, the Major General hasn't contacted me." "What's going on?" McClintock wondered. "A group of refugees hit the medical supplies. Major General Barnes was pissed. I didn't call him backup, but Alpha Squad was under heavy attack. We let 2 of the trucks go so we could assist," Cole summarized. McClintock looked at him seriously. "Why would you do that? That's not procedure. You should have called him backup and continued pursuit." "I know, but I didn't. Barnes is going to kill the people we captured," Cole reported angrily. "All right, settle down," McClintock advised, surprised by Cole's emotional outburst. They walked into the kitchen. "Have a beer and relax," McClintock advised, pulling out a chair at the table for Cole. As Cole sat down, McClintock went to the fridge and grabbed a beer. Cole explained. There was a staff sergeant on Alpha Squad. He was paralyzed in the battle. Barnes shipped him off to the refugee medical facility. And why the hell do we have two types in this country? Thank you for being honest, McClintock told him as he sat down and handed Cole a bottle. Now I'm going to be honest with you. Barnes did call me. I just wanted to hear it from you. And Cook came to me. She told me she saw you with one of the refugees that hit the medical supplies, McClintock explained. I think she's mistaken, Cole replied quickly. I don't think she is. It's not like you to break protocol. I think you let those trucks go on purpose, McClintock accused, taking a drink from his beer. Virgis, you have to decide what side you're on. I can't, sir. I just can't believe it would come to this, Cole exclaimed. McClintock looked at him sternly and advised, right now, we must survive at all costs. So get with the program or get out. Just like that, Cole asked, floored by his ultimatum. People are being treated like second-class citizens. Am I second class? I'd be right there with those refugees, and I would do it for the good of the country. That's what we need right now. Strong people, ready to sacrifice to stabilize the country, McClintock said proudly. I'm not sure I can live like this, Cole admitted, staring at the drink in his hand. Then go, Virgis. Go back home to Arizona. You're still a landowner, McClintock said flatly. I'm gone, sir, Cole declared, finishing his drink and heading for the door. Johnny ran after him. No, Virgis, don't go. Cole stopped on the front porch, turning back to hug him. I'll see you again, buddy. You be good for your dad. I don't want to stay with him. I want to go with you. McClintock stood in the doorway and snapped at his son. Johnny, let the man go and get back to your room. Take care of that boy, Dwayne. Good luck sorting this out, Cole said affectionately as he left. Safe journeys, Cole, he replied in the same affectionate tone.
On the brink of blackouts again, as power demand reached an all-time record high overnight, slivers of the Golden State plunged into darkness.
Tom says it expects to continue with Stage 6 rolling blackouts for the rest of the
week. A scheduled outage on Thursday, but the one that happened Sunday, it wasn't scheduled, it was unexpected, and it lasted longer than a day.
Point Zero Energy has given me the American-tested, American-assembled, reliable solar backup that I've been looking for. Their Titan solar generator is American ingenuity at its finest, with a removable, expandable lithium-ion battery, 2,000 watt-hour, 3,000 watt high-efficiency inverter. So what does all that mean to you? It means the Titan can charge your smartphone for 88 hours, your laptop for 35 hours, a CPAP for 108 hours, your refrigerator for 26.8 hours. Get to PointZeroEnergy.com today for the all-American solution to backup power.
Hello and welcome back to the Changing Earth podcast. This is episode number 418, season 15, chapter 21. Sorry, I'm already distracted because the chat's already lighting up. So we got the Intrepid Commander in there. We got JB in there. Hey, Jim, what's up?
Hey, chin's up. I thought something was buzzing in your ear.
Yeah, you had a little fun out there on the farm today, huh?
God, I was weed whacking and decided it'd be fun to weed whack a gel jacket ground hive. So
yeah,
that's always interesting.
Always good times.
Gotta run around a little bit.
Yeah. And mine was in the middle of a poison oak area as well, so I had like my clothes like taped on. So that was good in some ways because I couldn't get into some areas, but oh my gosh, I got stung like 6 times on each ear, all around my cheeks, everywhere, and my hair.
I got stung twice in the face, and then I finally got in the house, and I'm sitting at the kitchen table, and my wife looks, and there's a yellow jacket walking up my pant leg.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, get the heck out of here.
I was throwing my stuff off. I come running in the kitchen door. Brock's like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like, no. And they're like coming out of my hair. So he took me and put me in the shower. Like I was just laying with my head in the shower to get them out of my hair. It was a nightmare. Yeah, I feel for you. I totally get that one. I was like, that is the worst.
I might have a slight lisp because it got me on the lip, but it's didn't get too bad.
For the ones that live in the ground, if you get out there early morning and you just pour gasoline down their hole, like you don't have to light it on fire or nothing. Just pour gasoline down there, it kills them all.
Palmetto State Armory sells flamethrowers, and I'm about to go order one.
You don't need to like blow a hole in your yard. Literally, you can just pour the gasoline down there and it kills them.
See smoke from prepper camp. Chin's out there exterminating.
Yeah. My mom's friend who was running the bobcat for us out at my property, he's like, oh, whatever, yellow jackets. So he goes out there and starts going back and forth. Oh, they just clouded him. I'm like, I told you, man. So he was the one that gave us the heads up on the gasoline thing to get out there early in the morning and pour it down there. So, yeah. So happy to have you with us. Glad you're not allergic to them.
Yeah.
And you're not like blown up like a grapefruit. I had to go to a concert like 2 days after I got all those stings. I thought I was going to look like Sloth, from Goonies. But a lot of Benadryl and ice, and I was doing good. So, yeah. Okay, so let's jump into the show. We are going to prepper camp next weekend. So there will be no live Sunday show. Friday night, we do a live PBN show typically. I think that's still the game plan. And then I will have that for all of you guys that listen on the Changing Earth platform. I will have that live show out the week following prepper camp. We're also going to have the second block of the audio drama ready to go. It will air on October 5th, tentatively. We got a lot of moving parts right now going on. So if we have to kick it back a week, don't shoot the audio processors because we have lives too, and everybody's just volunteering. And so no worries. It's a stress-free project. But that is our tentative date as of right now. And then paid subscribers, you will have the 1 week early access to the commercial-free version of the audio drama. So if you're interested in that, just head on over to ChangingEarthSeries.com and you can become a paid subscriber and get the early access. So the second block is awesome, by the way. I mean, not to like toot my own horn, but oh my gosh, turned out so cool. Some of the best scenes that like I've ever put together. So I really, really want your guys' feedback on this one. It was I think it turned out really cool. There's some very intense parts that go down in the second block. So yeah. All right. JB is saying everybody who is from the PBN hosts and everything got to get logos over to her before prepper camp. So I got to make that happen. I'll have to write a note. Thanks for reminding me, JB. Always chiming up there. Alrighty, so last week on Virgis, he told Major General Barnes where he could stick it. So they were headed north to drop Christoph off. They dropped Christoph in Minneapolis at the refugee medical facility, and he's like, man, why are we actually doing this? Why is it like this? Just a nightmare scenario where you have these refugee medical facilities because they can't even get into like the normal care. So, it's just eerie, the parallels right now in our world with my books and everything that's going on. So it just trips me out.
Stop. In the back channels, I was telling you this week, you need to just stop.
Oh, I know.
Happy, joy crap, because I had enough of this changing world fiction turn into.
my dreams, the Lord has just been lighting me up lately with just get ready dreams. So, that's all I got to say, Yes, I can share. I had this dream where all of the food turned to mold and just disappeared. And it was like, get ready, get ready. And it was a little trippy to wake up to that one. And
You
then,
run to the pantry.
yeah, right. Yeah. So, and then I had some more that paralleled that. So interesting stuff. I mean, if you're into dreams, and things like that, hit me up. I have all kinds of crazy dreams. I write them all down and everything. It's why I don't fly over the ocean, actually, at all. Because, yeah. Okay, so then Cole goes to talk to General McClintock, and he's like, oh, all the stuff went down. And General's like, yeah, I already talked to Major General Barnes.
He said he didn't.
He said he didn't at first. So that Cole spills the beans, but then he did.
Have a beer.
Yeah. And then Cook also had come to him and like, hey, I think that Virgis is getting kind of sweet with that militia girl.
That could have gone really bad.
Right?
To see the end of this chapter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Virgis was very lucky on this.
Right. That they had a good friendship going beforehand. Or else, yeah.
He's just like, here's your get out of jail free pass.
Go. And I thought that was a cool little twist to do because if you know my book series, then you know where Virgis ends up. But if you don't, then you're in the dark. But so you should check out the book series. But
buy the books.
Yeah, buy the books.
Get the whole thing.
Audio books. And most of my podcast too is if you become a member over at Changing Earth, I have the whole book series except for Bitter End and Swenson done in the audio version where you get to hear the lessons about it afterwards. So, but yeah. So we had to give Virgis some twists and turns along the way, and I thought that was kind of a cool plot twist for him that he actually leaves. So now we got to figure out, well, how does he come back, So we're going to go through that journey. But today I wanted to get into a little bit about protecting your preps, because this has been an issue that's come up a little bit lately. People with different ideas, and our intrepid commander did a phenomenal show the other day. Did you listen to that show? It was about everything he's learned from all of the hosts.
Oh yeah, all the hosts. Each host taught him something different.
Yeah, I loved it. I love that. That was really, really sweet, man. So when he
learned he didn't want to fight you in a dark alley.
Bring it. Yeah, I do. I train all the time, at least 4 days a week. I'm never going to be a victim. I will tell you that much. I will not be a victim. I'll be dead. I will fight like a badger. So, no. And that was surprising to me, actually. I thought he was going to be like, oh, Sarah taught me that the world is just like, our natural world is just going crazy. But I was kind of honored by that, that I, taught him to train. The dedication that I have helps to instill it in other people. That's a wonderful thing. But when he was talking about Dave, and he was talking about how different ways of like protecting your family, it made me think of James Yeager, how he was like, what, you're going to stand and die for your house? Mm-hmm. Let your family die for stuff? Mm-hmm. And it's so true. And then I also trained with another gentleman in a survival school. And he always had like the idea of having foxholes outside. Now, if anybody ever came to your house, you just leave the liquor out and go hide in the foxhole let them get good and drunk, and then, his plan was to come in and eliminate everybody, where Dave's plan was Dad. That's apropos. Dave's plan was just to wait for them to just leave, right? Because they would eventually. So we had a whole bunch. Obviously, water storage is the worst. It's really hard to conceal that. And it's really hard to have it in an area that is concealed, because what if something goes wrong with your stuff? I've got a cool Changing Earth thing today. There was a break. We're gonna get there, but this wine, the town was flooded with red wine.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and
sounds like episode I Love Lucy or something.
Right? Yeah, where she'd be out in the road, drinking it.
Yeah.
So all I could think of was oh gosh, with water storage, and then your container breaks, and then you're just soaking everything in water. So there's some things that are going to be harder to hide from the eye. And the thought is okay, well, I try to have only vetted people to my house, right?
Right.
But sometimes you have the appliance guy come over.
Mm-hmm.
The delivery man. People that are just total random, and they're looking. And so if you have just stacks of food prep just sitting there or whatever, they're going to see that and be like, oh, it's good stuff here, right?
Try to build a house without having anybody strange in your house.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes there's those people, when I teach urban survival, I teach about the private area, the public-private, and then the public area.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. And sometimes there's authorized people that come into your private area. And so having your preps there, you just remember those things as human beings. You're oh, and if your family was starving and you're oh, hey, I remember the house that had that stuff. Right? So, go ahead.
I at a friend's house for a dinner party, and one of the other couples that was there was what's behind that door? And it went to this really awkward moment where,
I don't want you to see what's behind the door.
Yeah, it's it was just an awkward moment.
Yeah. Yeah, people are nosy, And and I've had somebody comment, on my water storage before, because it's all right there in my garage. I just fill up containers. I rotate containers, besides my Waterful. Waterful is great, guys. It's a great system. Still working beautifully. I would highly recommend that. That is drinking water. That's 30 gallons of drinking water. Or no, wait, 30. I don't know. It's a lot of drinking water. And then I still have the cat litter jugs, the big ones. That's some seriously good plastic.
Mm-hmm.
So I fill those up with water. We obviously rinse them out first. I have a filter that could filter that water if we needed to drink it, But you're going to need water for washing. You're going to need, water, so much water that even not just to hydrate your body, but for your everyday uses, right? Mm-hmm. So I just keep all kinds of jugs. The tea jugs are great. The Arizona tea, they have really thick plastic as well. I also put those in my backpack for when I'm walking, so I'm extra weighted, so I get used to carrying a go bag. Just side note, I put those in there. I'm up to 16 pounds now. My knees are I don't like you, because I do that, I do 4 miles a week with that. But, so the point is, after all of this, the point is, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of really cool ideas for how to keep things hidden. And I know that SoCal Prepper, I bet she talks about it a lot. Under your bed is a good place. Obviously, you don't want to put water storage under there.
But you only have a couple square foot.
Right? You got to stack that stuff up.
Exactly.
So, Yeah, that's been one of my winners, because you can get the dust ruffle, do that kind of thing. On Pinterest, if you go on Pinterest, you will find like a wild world of hiding your stuff. Yeah. So get creative, because if people come into your house and they can't find it, then they're not going to take it from you. Okay?
Yep.
So I'm not going to give up my secrets on the air, but, for your personal, find your place. I'm not one for putting things in the walls either. Like they'll open up walls and put ramen packages in there. You need to be able to rotate stuff, right? You need to be able to access stuff, make sure it's not getting eaten by rodents. Rodents can get in the walls, So I'm not one for that kind of thing. I would caution against doing that. But hey, if you want to line your house walls with ramen, more power to you. You can bury it. So you can put just a Rubbermaid container out in your yard. You can bury it. That was actually when we're in a very high wildfire prone area. If your house burns down, all your food burns down with it, But a wildfire could actually go over the ground and not hurt what's in there if it doesn't have a lot of vegetation right there. Mm-hmm. So it'd be a way to actually save your preps without losing them, even if your house burned down.
We could do those 55-gallon barrels that have the seals on top.
Yep.
So you could bury that.
Yep. And then just be able to take the lid off and pull it up and boom.
Yeah, a little more substantial.
Yeah, even I've seen a lot of the Rubbermaid containers. And then if you are in an area where maybe they have a certain registry and you don't have a certain thing on that registry, you could always bury that in the yard, and then that stays hidden as well. So it's a solid idea. I like the idea of being able to bury stuff and do stuff that way. I'm not so sure about Texas. It's so sandy out here where we are. But in California, absolutely. That was absolutely all over the place. They have clay soil. And so once you get that, it forms out into a box. It doesn't just fall in on itself. Also, your garden, right? If you're somebody who's gardening, you got a great big garden, it's going to be a great big red flag for anybody who's just on the move. Oh, hey, they have a garden. They could possibly
do a what's it called? Have a little kitchen garden.
Yep.
As a sacrificial garden, and then do your secret garden of survival.
Bingo.
Of land and stuff. So even if they ravage all your tomato plants in your garden, which most people with the rows of gardening, right? The traditional,
right?
Garden. If they get that, they think they got everything, but you have fruit trees or just stuff. You do your landscaping with edible items,
right?
Your stuff like that.
Edible landscaping and the secret garden of survival. If you guys haven't checked out Rick's book,
right. Have stuff in the front yard that provides edible stuff, but it doesn't look. We've seen my mom's neighborhood. There's a lady that has raised beds in her front yard, and on one hand I'm like, yeah, good for you. On the other hand, I'm like, nice target.
Right? I know.
Mm-hmm.
One of my neighbors, I keep an eye on their. Well, actually, a couple of them. I watched their gardens because this was such a different climate for me. So I wanted to see how their growing patterns were and stuff. Well, their gardens are just right out front, huge gardens right out front of their house. And I'm like, well, wow, that's a fabulous target as well. In Texas, there's probably a gun waiting behind that door.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, that's probably the case, especially when they have livestock.
A gun behind every blade of grass.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody breaks into somebody's house out here, and it's usually that person gets shot. So which is fine. That's absolutely how it should be. But yeah, so anyway, you can, the other thing is to research wild forageables that grow natively in your area. If they don't know like what that plant is and that it's valuable and you can eat that and utilize that,
I think James has done some shows on that or talks about that in some of his shows. He kind of knows the surrounding area and kind of where stuff is.
Yep.
Some native plants that are edible.
Well, you can encourage them to grow in your area too. If you know that that's native to your area, bring some of the seeds back. See if you can, ask somebody if you can dig some up and bring it back to your property. It's going to grow because it's a native plant. So it's a really good idea to be able to encourage those things. And then, somebody from the city that's just coming out looking for food, or even if you are in the city, those things are going to grow better in whatever container or wherever you can grow it, those things are going to grow better. And the average Joe or Jane is not going to know what that is or be able to utilize it, as long as their dog doesn't pee on it.
That's into the whole thing about, have the shiny object for them to go after.
Yep.
They get it, think they've got everything, and then they move on to the next where you have your fallback positions.
Right.
That you harvest from.
Yep. Yeah, it just makes sense. So the other option too is obviously the secondary location. So a lot of people aren't planning on staying where they are if something major starts happening. It's we're going to wait it out for X amount of days. And if it still hasn't, isn't improving itself, then it's time to go. And how far is that area? Like where you're going to, first of all, how far is it? Do you need supplies along the way? Because if you do, a storage unit might not be a bad idea. I go back and forth over the storage unit though, because as somebody who's in the preparedness community, if I had to leave my house and all my stuff and I'm just nomadic now, I'm probably going to go check out storage units, and be like, did somebody store up stuff in here that could be used? Especially if nobody's there. I mean, there'll be people claiming areas. It just happens in humanity. The bums on the street know what restaurants feed people and they claim it as their territory, So it is a risk. But that's why I've been kind of leery about storage unit's a good idea. But obviously, I mean, if you're going from one state to the other,
if you had to get out in a hurry, people listening to the show would probably be getting out ahead of the crazy.
Right.
Hopefully. But say you're at work and you couldn't get back home, that storage container might give you the leg up that you need to keep going.
Absolutely. And if you get there, like you say, before the crazy starts, then there's nothing wrong with it. And most people should be, you got to have your trigger. Like you always talk about that point where you're like, no, this is the go time. And there's nothing we're not letting emotions get in the way. So, because you got to be there first. You got to be there before the crazy starts. And then you won't care, about what's left. Also, at your secondary location, how hidden is your stuff at that location?
Right.
It doesn't do you any good to we're going over to Bobby Sue's house, because everybody's throwing in stuff and they have a cabin where we're all going. And then the cabin needs some repair work. And the guy notices that one of the bedrooms is full of long-term survival food. I mean, again, that's not going to be doing you any good, It's the kind of thing where you have to make sure you can hide it in plain sight really easily. You just have to think about it and actually do that.
Camouflage.
A lot of the storage units are just the same, and the dog food bins are food safe, so you can take it out of the thing that says, long-term survival food. Take it out of there and just throw it into a dog food container. Now you have 4 dog food containers sitting along the floor instead of, buckets and the one you're actually using to feed your dogs out of. They might be like, well, why do you have so many of those? Oh, because we keep rice in one, flour in one. We just do it. That's what we do, right? But it's a lot less obvious. People aren't going to think like, oh, they had rice and flour. They might, but they're much more likely to be like, oh, hey, they had all those boxes of long-term storage, food storage over there. Let's go hit that up.
Yeah. No, you don't want to.
Right? So that's really my point on it. And then if you're going to leave something out, make sure you're like well protected.
In that same though, it pays not to be flashy. Like if you have a flashy lifestyle and if your house looks the richest on the block, it might not be the best.
Don't have a preparedness podcast where you let everybody know that you're preparing and no. I actually get that question a lot. Like, aren't you scared that people are going to find out? And I'm like, no, because I'm helping other people to prepare. And the more people that actually start preparing, then we have prepared communities, then we're ready and we don't all have to go fisticuff over a bag of, one MRE or something like that, right? Just makes sense. So I'd rather take the risk of helping people than take the risk of, and if you think I'm going to be here too, when stuff goes down, like, have at it, So, yeah. There's other ways, too, that you can protect your interest that will deter people and whatnot. So, like you say, don't be flashy. Don't have, the nicest house on the block. Don't, leave your garage door open that faces the road with all your stuff sitting right there. No, that's just silly.
Would you put out trash, all that,
Mm-hmm.
Would you put on the curbside for trash day? You might want to double think that.
Right.
Some things are worth making a trip to the dump just to dispose of. So, it's not sitting there overnight for people to drive around a neighborhood or something in case you.
Exactly. Yeah. And, one of the biggest things is the garage being open facing the road.
Yeah.
People are curious, So.
It's a hard one even if you don't leave it open, you're out there doing yard work and it's open longer than when you come home, you go in and you shut it. But that's a hard one.
It is. Yeah, we leave ours open all the time, but it's not facing the road. And I also don't have my stuff just sitting there. I do have water storage in my garage. So if you walk in my garage, you're going to be like, wow, you got a lot of water sitting there. Yeah, I do. Yep. That's it. I got water. So, yeah, I'm sure it's if people know, then it's a little bit of a ding ding. But otherwise, it's well, go ahead and drink that water and see what you're going to get. Which one is safe? So, that's my other little deterrent for people who would like to come to my house and take advantage of what they didn't work for. The other thing is people, your friends. I'm sure you've had friends that are like, oh, we're coming to your house when stuff happens. Because anybody who's into preparedness has heard that before. The minute you talk to somebody, they're like, oh, I don't need to prepare. I'm just coming to your house. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So my defense for that is I always ask them, what are you bringing? Because if you ain't bringing nothing, well, you can just keep on moving, And it doesn't have to be physical stuff. What kind of knowledge do you have? Maybe you should think about that now before you just come to my house, So food's always good. But medical knowledge, dentistry, that would be great. Come on over, that kind of thing. So, it needs to be kind of understood that you can't just plan on taking advantage of people. That's probably not the best way to go. Although I do know a fair amount of people who seriously have that plan in their mind, which is really disheartening and sickening, and they're probably not going to heaven when all is said and done. I'm just saying. So yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think you need to think about this kind of stuff.
Right? Got to brainstorm it. I do like the idea of if you leave or if someone comes, leave.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you've hidden it well enough that they're not going to find like your main stash or whatever. You know? But like James said,
I've also read about people that like in prepper fiction, those crazy prepper fiction where they have like the kitchen pantry, and then they'll have the secret storage, right? So if somebody breaks into the house, just like we were talking about with gardens and stuff, they break into the house, they find a dozen cans of tomato soup,
right?
And they think you, right, and pasta, they think they got you, but they only got a fraction of what you put up.
Exactly. Yep. So that's why I say, like, get creative and find that area where you can store stuff that is not the obvious,
Right.
Yeah, Pinterest, man. Just go to Pinterest and check it out. Once you'll fall in there.
That's a rabbit hole.
Right? Yeah, you'll just fall in there. So that's a good area to go. I mean, if you can't get ideas there, I can't help you out. But yeah, take care of yourself. Take care of your families first and foremost before you worry about stuff. Stuff can always get replaced. And, worst comes to worst, you got to eat bugs. You know how to do that. If you don't, we'll help you out. But I don't want to eat no bugs, but there's other ways to survive. So don't lose your family over anything.
Right.
All right, let's go ahead and get into some Changing Earth news. Any questions from my chat room? We'll play some music. We'll see if we have any questions, and then we'll just jump into Changing Earth if we don't have any questions. All right, Changing Earth news. We got a bounce in the chat room, but we got no questions. So we're going to move on to Changing Earth news. Plasma ejection headed our way. It was gorgeous. Dude, it was a big one that came off the sun. Luckily, it was not dense. So it is not going to be a major CME. Probably a little bit more than a glancing blow, but it was pretty amazing to watch. The plasma bursts are just like these dark areas that just slough off, and it's just incredible to watch the sun and all its living action. So we got one of those coming. We also got hit last night by a small CME. It was so small and just glanced us that there was no geomagnetic storm, so that's good news. We're kind of already dealing with enough on our planet right now. I want to say first and foremost here in Changing Earth news this week that my prayers are going out for everybody over in Libya. It is a nightmare scenario over there. They had this storm that just whipped up in the Mediterranean Sea. It smashed that country. It destroyed 2 dams. The death count is still going up. They're estimating probably by when everything's all said and done and dug out from this nightmare scenario, probably about 20,000 people dead. It is a really tough event. And that's on the heels of what happened in Lahaina a month ago. And that's on the heels of what happened in Morocco just like a week ago. So it was a double whammy for Africa, Northern Africa last week. And that is devastating. If you haven't seen the before and after pictures on some of that stuff, dude, you're like, that's the same place? I mean, it is really bad. So they're saying, the reason why I'm bringing it up in the top news is because they are saying that it was because of aging dams and missed warnings. America has a very similar situation with our Fort Peck Dam up in Montana. This dam is at the very top. It feeds down in the Mississippi Valley. We're having 100-year rain events like crazy. This thing hasn't been replaced in like 100 years, and it really needs to be looked after. It has to be put on. I mean, and what are they talking about? Definitely not about redoing dams. But this is one of those nightmare scenarios that could very well happen and destroy the Mississippi Valley in the United States, which would be devastational to our country. So I urge you to check out Fort Peck Dam and, put your voice out there to encourage them. Like, it's time to get that thing fixed up. It was only supposed to be around, wasn't supposed to last that long. Really needs to be updated, and it could be really bad news. So if we're going to take a positive away from this horrifically negative event, it's that, we need to pay attention ourselves to our dam system. And if you're living by one, you need to be aware of what kind of a time frame you have if that thing were to go. Because that was the biggest problem. That's why so many people have been killed. They just didn't have enough time to get out of the way. So prayers. God bless everybody and the families that are trying to deal with that nightmare scenario over there. Okay, so we had Hurricane Lee come up. Lee could have been a big bad dog for the East Coast there. Chin, I was saying prayers for you guys as well.
Fish.
What's that?
He stayed out chasing the fish.
Yes, sir. A nice storm system came in and kind of buffered it off of the coast. So even though you guys had that storm, at least you didn't have Lee coming in. That storm was pretty gnarly. It did its job on the East Coast, but at least it wasn't Hurricane Lee coming in at like a Cat 5, So it moved north. It is hitting the northern part of like New England and Canada. So I know it was coming in with, I've got the numbers on it as we go, but like, what was it? 93 mile an hour wind. So it is going to do some damage, but funny story that's up on the news. Mexico is now building a wall, its own wall. And I know it's not really changing Earth news.
It's going to pay for it.
Yeah, right? It's relevant because they're building it because they think that it's imminent collapse of the United States and everybody will be coming back down into Mexico, right? And so they want to make sure that people can't re-enter or enter Mexico once America goes down. So I don't know if they know something that we don't. But yeah, I found that rather interesting. This year to date, we have had $23 billion weather events happen. So that's how crazy the change in Earth is getting right now. $23 billion events. Now you know why the insurance companies are going it's getting a little rough for them, Yeah, some CEOs probably make too much money, but still, $23 billion events. This is not anything to shake a stick at. This is the changing Earth. This is our polar shift and our 12,000 year cycle in action. So I just found that rather interesting as well. All right. So on 9/12, that'll be September 12th, we had 358 earthquakes or 2.0 or bigger. Biggest of which was a 6.3 in the South China Sea. We also, that was over by the Philippines. We also had a 5.3 in Chile. Kilauea started erupting again after a 2-month pause. So that's happening over there in Hawaii as well. Storm Daniel, that was going across Europe, did a whole bunch of mess in Turkey, hit Jordan. It caused 20 port workers to be hospitalized because of an intense dust storm, and it also impacted Cairo. We had a 3.3 earthquake hit Morgan Hill near Phoenix, Arizona. So that's kind of an odd one down there. And then on the 12th, they were just estimating 2,000 people dead in Libya with like 10,000 missing. And so that's how high that death toll has climbed just in this week. Okay, we're going to lighten things up. Portugal had the flash flood of red wine in São Lourenço do Barrio due to a 2.2 million liter tank bursting. It released 580,000 gallons of red wine down the street and into the city. And
big headache waiting to happen.
Right? They were worried about it contaminating the river there. So they did get it diverted off. So like all ran into this field. But man, could you imagine like how stained everything is after that? Like, oh man, that's just a bummer. Severe thunderstorms and hail hit Orlando, Florida. There was over 300 ground lightning strikes in California's Tuolumne Country. It hit 30 transformers and knocked out power there pretty good. And then there was some incredible spider lightning over the sky in San Antonio, Texas. Massachusetts and Rhode Island saw flash flooding. They had submerged vehicles, and it created this huge sinkhole in Leominster. I saw one article said they lost like 3 Cadillacs in there, and I was like, why is it only eating Cadillacs? That's kind of weird. Morocco is up to 2,800 deceased. They saw areas of extreme uplift and depression. So it's just cool. Not cool at all, actually, but it's interesting scientifically to see how the amount of earth movement that can happen so quickly in an area that's not even earthquake prone. So it just shows you that we're on this living, breathing planet. And the minute that you think that you're on a rock and this is stable and this is never going to change, that is when it will, man. And so it's just amazing to see how much the earth that you thought, oh, well, that can never be different, how quickly, in the blink of an eye, that area can be totally rapidly changed. The same thing happened in the St. Louis area during the New Madrid quakes. There was places that went up, as high as a 2-story building, and then lakes that just developed out of nowhere. Really interesting scientific stuff to see. Not so great for whoever is on top of the earth when that is happening. Especially their houses were mostly made of the mud brick, and man, it just doesn't stand up to any kind of rattling. Delaware saw their 3rd tornado of the year. Very odd area to be getting tornadoes anywhere. They saw the 3rd one of the year. September 13th, we had 337 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 6.1 in the South Pacific Ocean. Buenos Aires, Argentina, they had multiple 30-plus vehicle pileups due to dust storms there. Unfortunately, 2 people did lose their lives in those events, and dozens of others were injured. Within the first 11 days of September, we have seen 8 devastating flooding events. So we have Libya, Greece, Turkey, Brazil. Spain got hit, both central Spain and coastal Spain. Southwestern China, Hong Kong, and the United States have now all experienced extreme flooding events. So it's on the move, guys. Really go over and watch Suspicious Observers. It will put so much of what I highlight to you into perspective on why it's so important, because the water's just going to come out of nowhere. It's going to disappear in other areas. The land's going to shift. It's going to be some crazy time. In China, they lost 70 crocodiles after their area flooded, and now the crocodiles have flown the coop, and they have no idea where these crocodiles are. So we might now have a crocodile population in China. On September 14th, there was 405 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, the biggest of which was a 5.6 in the South Pacific Ocean. The aftershocks are still coming in Morocco, so like if they haven't been hit hard enough, they're still getting hit. What a nightmare scenario. Spokane, Washington had a 2.7 earthquake. Interesting area to be experiencing that up in our northwestern area of the United States. That's energy that's traveling around the Ring of Fire. Phoenix, Arizona, they got hit by the monsoon. Seems like they cannot catch a break this year. Lots of power lines down. And Germany, Germany was hit with a severe storm with heavy rain and hail that did a ton of damage. And I was like, at first I was like, what are the worms in Germany in trouble from the storm? Nope.
By
Yeah, I was like, was that like maybe it was bad for agriculture or something? No, the town is actually called Worms, Germany. So I found that kind of interesting. September 15th of 2023, we had 383 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.7 in the South Pacific Ocean right off the Chilean coast. We had a 4.0 earthquake in my neck of the woods in Falls City. Well, not really my neck of the woods, but in Texas, in Falls City. It's much closer to the Austin area. Atlanta, Georgia experienced some flash flooding, and Libya went up to 11,300. The death count went up to 11,300 on the 15th. On the 16th of September, we had 359 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, the biggest of which was a 5.2 in the South Pacific Ocean off the New Zealand coast. And then on the 17th, there was 305 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.6 in the North Pacific Ocean off the coast of British Columbia. So you can see that energy travels around the Ring of Fire there. In northwestern Algeria, they had several wildfires break out today on the 17th. That brings us up to today. There was a 4.2 and a 5.5 earthquake in Port Hardy in British Columbia. Those are the 5.6 that I was talking about off the coast. They had a tsunami warning up. I haven't seen anything about that as of yet, but they did have a tsunami warning up this morning because of that activity out in the ocean. Tropical storm conditions have hit Massachusetts as they're now calling it post-tropical cyclone. Lee hits New England, so you can see it lost a lot of power getting into colder water. But it is causing flooding, lots of storm damage, 93-mile-an-hour winds coming in. It's also hitting Nova Scotia. It's a big boy going up there. In the Sudan, they have lost thousands of homes due to flooding along Sudan's River Nile. They have lost 10 people this month due to the flooding there. And a violent storm hit France, and there's tornadoes out in Normandy today. So we've got a lot on the docket even today. We'll take a peek at that next week. I was watching this documentary on France. I don't know. I guess I'm never going to fly across the ocean, so I'm not going there. But yeah, I guess it's not like the city of romance that it used to be. As far as volcanic activity, we have 29 volcanoes actively erupting. That is up 2 from last week. We added one to the list overall. Most of those are erupting in Indonesia, and in Alaska, we have a lot on the minor activity list. There are 35 on the minor activity list right now. That's the same from last week, but it's still a pretty high number. And then we have 30 showing unrest. That's down 1. So like I said, overall, we added 1 to the list. And I just can't believe the number of erupting volcanoes. I used to never see it go above 28. That was the highest I'd ever seen. And it's just, didn't happen. Then we had all those weeks of 30. We're back up to 29 right now. It's just crazy. You can definitely tell that the earth is is doing stuff. I swear. Some of the comments on social media, like it's a rock, like it, like it doesn't do anything. Like, have you studied any of Earth's history? As far as wildfires in the United States, we are still at a preparedness level of 3. We have 59 major wildfires, 326,615 acres on fire. One of those fires is contained. Number 1 state for wildfires right now is Oregon. So Alaska came completely off the list. They bounced up to number 1 for just a second, and then they were gone. They did really, really well with their wildfire season this year. And with as much as Canada is on fire, you would think that maybe Alaska would be getting some of that. But nope, they popped up for that 1 week, and now they're gone. Number 1 state right now is Oregon with 12 fires, 100,000 acres on fire. None of those are contained. Second place is Idaho, 11 fires, 65,039 acres on fire. None of those are contained. Louisiana, still number 3. So hopefully I don't have to drive through any of those areas here coming up. Still number 3 on the list. 5 active wildfires, 43,564 acres. None are contained. Yes, Chin, I will check it out before I leave to make sure that we're not going through a fire area. And then Montana is number 4, 9 active fires, 35,693 acres, and one of those is contained. So good job, Montana. If you notice, there's another state that it has been eerily missing from the logs this year, which is California. They've done pretty darn good with wildfires, which they really needed a break because they've had about every kind of severe storm and incident coming through that state over the last couple of years. So their insurance industry, let me just tell you, really needs a break from paying out claims. So that's good. That's good. And Washington is also, I'm sure they're down there in the numbers somewhere, but it was so incremental that it, didn't have to be brought forward. They didn't make the top 4. We're just going to put it that way. So yeah, if you got a moment, say some prayers for everybody affected in these natural disasters. These are some big ones that hit. And then to hit, Libya and Morocco aren't that far from each other as the crow flies. This would probably be New York to, probably the Carolinas. They're like that, close to each other pretty much. I think. I don't know what the distance is, but it would be they're on the same coast. They're both on the northern coastline of Africa. So really got a double whammy up there. That's just hard. That's just rough times. And we got our fair share going on here. And Spain. And everywhere. And China. And yeah, it's crazy. Crazy stuff. So we're bringing it. Changing Earth News. Still coming at you, Chen.
Yep, still there.
Still just going to have to deal with it. I'm telling you. You got to be prepared, not scared. Keep hiding those food stores away.
Yeah, right. Stores.
Yep. Be creative. It's fun anyway. Get creative. It's fun. And brainstorm it with your family. Get everybody involved. Everybody will have fun. I like hide and go seek, right? So, and anyway, you get the family involved, then they know where everything is too, which is always important. You might not be there, so make sure they're at least aware, even if they're not on board with you. Put it that way.
And it's nice to not have to run to the grocery store every day to get something to eat. I mean, just
right.
Pull from private stores instead of having to.
And if somebody has a medical emergency or loses their job or something like that, I mean, it's totally on the docket right now. Yep. And plus, any investment you make in food right now is going to be worth it because all that's going to happen is it's going to keep going up in price. So if you're a financial guru as well, I mean, that's got to make solid sense to you. So, alrighty. Well, that's the show for today, folks. Again, no live show next week. We will be having a long day at prepper camp, teaching some great info. I will keep you posted on when my online class for the anti-kidnapping and avoiding sexual assaults will be available. I don't think I'm going to charge for that class because I want people to have access to it no matter what level of income you are. I will happily take donations, and I'm going to donate them to Tim Ballard's organization that he's a part of. And that way we can help save more kids, and we can help children who have already been rescued out of these horrific situations have access to financial things that they need to get their lives back on track. So that's the game plan with that, because I want everybody, mostly slower income people that are the most vulnerable, and I don't want them to not be able to access the content because of a paywall. So that'll be the game plan there. So I'll let you know when that's available. We're going to do the replay of the Friday night show. We got the audio drama coming, man. It's good stuff rolling with the Changing Earth. So stay tuned. If you want to check out everything that's going on, everything under the sun, all you got to do is go to www.changingearthseries.com. And everything is there. I just gave the website a revamp too. I updated the picture for all the characters on my little the little picture deal at the top. So I put in a whole bunch of new characters, so you can go over there and see if you can pick out who's who and guess who's what. And I thought that was cool to bring in everybody and try and fill that up a little more. Bring all the characters to the forefront. So that all just got a facelift. And if you want to get a hold of me, you can definitely do that there. All you got to do is go to the contact area and you can send me messages. And all my Twitter links, all that kind of stuff. Or I'm sorry, X or whatever it is now is all there. So changingearthseries.com. All right, guys. Until next time, remember, dream,
survive,
thrive.
Thank you for joining Sarah and Chen for this episode of the Changing Earth podcast. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Day After Disaster, Without Land, The Walls of Freedom, Battle for the South, Dark Days in Denver, and The Endless Night at www.authorSarahFHathaway.com. If you love the Changing Earth series and podcast, become a supporter while you're there.